any of the X-ray attacks in Mortal Kombat X actually survivable, or will all of them send you straight to the morgue?
From the sky, a beam of light, I am electric eye.
Good morning, class, and welcome to your next session in the Arkham Academy. I am Brian, and today we're going to be looking at general combat tactics that you can use universally across all of the combat challenges, thus solving most of your combat challenge needs, and the gadget pools for every single character that you can play as in Batman Arkham City. Now keep in mind one other thing, there will be challenges that I will be looking at myself, so some of the harder combat challenges we'll cover another time. But I won't be covering most of the combat challenges because most of them are easy enough. It's just some of the tougher ones like Funhouse Brawl Extreme we'll be looking at because that one is a frickin' nightmare. And I will be showing you all of the, all except for the Wayne Manor Main Hall combat challenges like the Iceberg Lounge and Joker's Carnival because they have unique modifiers that are, well, unique to those challenges. So, without further ado, let's have a quick peek at everybody's gadgets and some general combat tips. One thing to keep in mind about all combat challenges is that no matter what, please do not think that speed is of the essence with these things. This isn't a Predator challenge where you're rewarded for the fastest times or anything. You can take your time and try and string together as long of a combo as you can, and it's encouraged. With longer combos, you can turn a 2,740, which frankly is pathetic, into almost 7,500, or potentially even 8,000 points, depending on how well you do. And this is the same challenge with the same round with the same amount of guys. All I did was make things longer and use more of the quick-fire gadgets, which with Batman we will cover soon. Just keep in mind that, don't forget that you have these things. These quick-fire gadgets are essential for taking out as many bad guys as possible and stringing together some epic free-flow combos. All characters can catch projectiles and throw them at the opponent. Unusually, the fire extinguishers tend to not explode on impact with a frozen opponent. So be mindful of that when you're playing as Batman, and don't be afraid to use your quick-fire projectile. Now, with Batman, we have 5 different quick-fire gadgets. The combo Batarang, which allows Batman to throw up to 3 of them without losing a combo. He can also use the quick-fire explosive gel to knock down multiple opponents if they're near, but if it misses, it's an auto-fail of the combo. Quick-fire combo Batarangs can also be used in order to explode fire extinguishers. Remote electric charges can be used to stun opponents, and opponents with weapons can actually beam allies, especially useful if they have stun sticks. The quickfire backclaw is huge. What this does is that this allows Batman to pull in opponents for a strike, but he can be hit out of it, so be mindful of when you're using it. It may be better just to use the raw backclaw in order to disarm somebody of their weapons. Not necessarily destroy them like with a special combo move, but you get the idea. Also, one thing to keep in mind, all characters have special combo instant takedowns. These are unblockable, and these will easily take down any opponent that isn't a Titan or a Lieutenant. So, you can use these in order to really start whittling down the numbers, and make sure you use them. Without them, some characters become absolutely useless, so bear that in mind. With beatdowns, be mindful of opponents as they will try and hit you out of it, so make sure that you don't give them that chance. One last note, the quickfire freeze blast freezes an opponent in place, and they will be knocked down immediately with a stun or a bat or a thing, allowing you for a quick avenue for a potential ground takedown. Catwoman's gadget pool may be relatively shallow, but it's not a bad thing in these combat challenges since all of them can be used in combat. Primarily the Bola, which is used to be an answer to the Batarang. Now, keep in mind that the Bolo's controls are actually L2 plus square, not L2, just tapping L2 like any other of those gadgets. But what it can do that no other character can do is be used to extend combos in such a way that really nobody else really can due to how slow they can be made to hit. 14, 15, 16. Normally it's just 14, 14, 14. And instead you can actually use it to kind of extend combos if you're good with your timing, because if you do it too slow, then, well, you're kind of out of luck there. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that with propane canisters and fire extinguishers, you can use your primary projectile to shut them down before they can be used, which is useful if you're really bad with projectile counters or really don't want to get surprised by one, because trust me, nothing is worse than having a really long combo and then having somebody just randomly chuck like a box or a fire extinguisher at you and it lands and it ruins your combo. It is not a good time. Oh, one thing to keep in mind is that we're also looking at weapon and character types, like the armored henchmen here. These guys can only really be hit with a beatdown or an instant takedown, or if you manage to get them on the ground, a ground takedown. Their armor prevents them from being struck, and counters aren't very effective. Like, they just get them off of you. They don't add to your hit counter, nor do they make you fail your combos. Caltrops are super good, especially with larger crowds, because it floors a lot of enemies, allowing you to get certain opportunities. And Catwoman's whip, can trip opponents and, by extension, disarm them. Now, keep this in mind as well. If you would like to have a look at your score and figure out what you may have missed from, say, you got 4 out of 5 gadget bonuses with Batman, and you're like, what did I miss? You can hit the square button and have a look at your statistics, which will also give you a score breakdown, right down to your best single move score and your combo count and things like that. One thing I also want to talk about is the slide. This is a great way to start a combo because you slide and then you get ×2. But if you run at all while you have a free flow combo, it automatically ruins it, and you need to run in order to slide. So the only time that a slide really works while you get a flawless free flow is if you slide and then go right into a strike. But if you hit an armored henchman, it doesn't add the ×2, so you still have to do the 3 times strikes in order to get a flawless free flow, because if you run, you drop the combo. Robin's attacks come in several flavors, but he's mainly here to demonstrate some of the toughest enemies you will take on in any sort of situation. But first, the Snap Flash can be quick planted on any enemy, even if they have a shield, and then fired to take down him and any of the other enemies nearby. Now, the toughest enemies that I refer to are enemies that have certain kinds of weapons, but they also refer to the biggest enemies you will take on in any sort of thing like this. They refer to lieutenants, which are Hammer and Sickle, the Abramovich twins, and Titan thugs. The Abramovich twins have different main attacks, with Hammer slamming his hammer down, and Sickle having a wide-ranging sweep. But both do have a pounce attack if you get too far from them, and take 50 hits to take down. Now, the Titans are a little bit different this time around because you can't stun them with a common projectile as they run anymore. You need to ultra stun them in order to stun them, and then if your character is either of the Bat family, you can actually beat on them until you ride on the Titans to then use a Titan run in order to run headlong into a wall, barreling enemies over as you go, or a Titan slam to floor enemies in the area immediately around you. Now, Catwoman can't ride Titans, but she can put them in a stun state where they swing wildly. You usually can only get about 3 actions off of a Titan anyway before the Titan forces you off. Do this 3 times, and you can eventually take a Titan down, giving you the biggest single point move in the entire game. Now, Robin's bullet shield is weird because it's used to knock opponents down, but as you can see, it has a very unusual hitbox and can hit enemies you didn't think it could. Don't forget to use your blade dodges as well as your blade dodge takedowns to deal with enemies with knives. And the other tough enemies that I mentioned are enemies with shields, which can only be aerial attacked in order to bring down, and opponents with stun batons. Oh wow, look at that. a box hit me. Or opponents with stun batons, which can only be attacked from behind. This is, of course, excluding instant takedowns and throws and stuff. Time to move on to Nightwing. Nightwing, as I've said before, is kind of a combination of Batman and Catwoman, and that's a pretty good way to look at it. His quickfire electric slam does not add hits, but is a good way to disrupt opponent movements. And his quickfire scryma stick throw is very similar to his wing ding, so you can use it as a second projectile, sort of. Now, ninjas are the last enemy we're going to be talking about. Their orange attacks are 4 swings instead of the 3 that knife guys usually have. So you're going to need to be wary of that, and they can be pretty quick with their blue attacks and with their blade swipes. Using Nightwing's Group Electrify allows you to electrify lieutenants into a spin, but also make sure to listen for audio cues, otherwise you'll get clipped by a box. Now I may have said earlier that I was going to talk about certain special combat challenges, but I think I'll save those for another video. One thing to keep in mind about ninjas is that they can either show up at the beginning of a fight or near the end when you think you're done, and suddenly, oh shit, ninjas. Now the thing about, well, these ninjas, these League of assassins, is that they are fairly flimsy. 2 critical strikes and they're down. But they can actually dodge your projectile attacks and long-reaching strikes, like how some of your opponents, how sometimes you can travel a decent distance and then strike the opponent. They can usually dodge projectiles and those sorts of attacks. And be wary too that you do not underestimate these ninjas, because don't think for a second that you can get a ground takedown on these guys. Even with Nightwing's wrist dart, which usually knocks enemies down for a long time, they're up instantly. So there's no way you can do your sort of ground takedowns on them. And like I said, those blue strikes, legendarily fast and scary. Now, I hope you enjoyed this installment of Arkham Academy. I had to kind of force myself to kind of get it through because I'm like, I don't want to do this, but, well, I'm forcing myself to do it, so here you go. I hope you enjoyed, and as always, DFTBA.